You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. As you're building your business, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Self-care is very important. If I asked you about your financial health, you'd probably be able to tell me within a few dollars how you're doing financially. If I asked you about your business health, you could probably tell me with a fair degree of accuracy how healthy your business is right now, either growing or not growing. What about your mental health? We talk about mindset a lot here on Rebelpreneur because your mindset is so important. That's just one aspect of your overall mental health. So I want to bring in an expert in mental health, Mary Smith. She is a licensed practical counselor. Did I say that right, Mary? Is it a licensed practical or licensed professional counselor?
Licensed professional counselor. So you almost got it.
I almost got it. LPC. And then I'm thinking, what does LPC stand for? So it's licensed.
You're not.
What?
Not the first person to ask that. So it's, licensed professional counselor.
Okay. Well, she's a licensed professional counselor, and she wants everyone to be able to be their craziest, most authentic selves always. As a licensed professional counselor, see, if I had kept reading, I would have seen what LPC stands for. As a licensed professional counselor and cognitive healer, she helps people get there by using humor, actionable insights, and personal story sharing to connect with patients and help heal their personal suffering so their true selves can emerge. Mary Smith, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thank you, Ralph, for having me. Feels great to be here.
Tell us a little bit more about what went into your life experiences that caused you to want to work in this area of mental health, helping other people.
So I'm going to be honest with you. It was a high school psychology class that I took. I'll never forget the teacher's name either. It was Coach Seidenberg. And it was the first subject that my eyes lit up, my ears perked up. I not only got this subject, but I was curious about it. It was like a light bulb moment went off. You know, they talk about these light bulb moments. That was my moment. And I realized that this was something that was needed, that even myself being a high schooler at that time, I was like, I've seen, soap operas. Everybody needs relational help. Like, that's why we're all entertained by, at that point it was the real world. And, I was like, wouldn't it be nice if we could heal those relationships? So that was the start of it. And then it just continued. I went into college and I continued to love the subject. I continued to be curious about it. And from then on, I knew that I wanted to be a therapist and needed to do grad school to achieve that.
Very interesting. It's always interesting, I think, to go back to the beginning and hear the story of what got you interested into whatever it is that you're doing right now. And everyone has a different story, but there's always that light bulb moment, I think, that you stumble upon something. And for me, it was marketing was more of a means to an end. It was, how do I survive? How do I build a business? How do I pay my bills? I've got to get good at marketing. And I also studied psychology as you did. But that light bulb for me didn't go off until many years later. And that's when I realized what we're trying to do with marketing is really because I studied marketing and psychology. And what I realized is, yes, both of them. What interesting combination. Well, because marketing is the study of consumer behavior. Psychology is the study of human behavior. And since most consumers are humans, it made sense to me that I should understand both. If I really wanted to understand why people buy what they buy, and I needed to know why they do what they do. But the convergence of those two then created a third light bulb of really what we're doing, whether it's marketing, whether it's writing, publishing, or even counseling, coaching, or consulting, it all comes down to strategic communication. And I became fascinated with strategic communication. Then I went and got a master's degree in strategic communication to learn how to communicate in ways that affect people in a positive way. Of course, you could do it in a negative way. It's called propaganda. It's called media bias. I mean, you can affect people negatively with strategic communication, or you can affect people positively. And I realized that everything that I was studying in psychology and in marketing, that it all came down to communicating effectively with people to influence their belief and their behavior in a positive direction. Now, I'm using communication to do that. You're using counseling to do that. But you still have to talk to clients, don't you?
Absolutely. And even in the studies and the programs that I've done during grad school and after grad school, there's a certain strategic way that therapists and counselors do actually need to show up and model for their clients, and also to establish that therapeutic alliance that's necessary for any healing to happen.
Exactly. And I love, you talked about strategy. I love the fact that you say on your website that your approach is directive. People may not appreciate what that means, but let me say what it means from a layman's point of view, and then you correct me if I'm wrong. But a non-directive approach is kind of like a coach or a consultant that sits back and says, okay, what do you want to accomplish? Okay, I'll hold you accountable for that. What do you think the next steps are? Okay, I'll hold you accountable for those next steps. It's non-directive. You don't tell people what to do. And that's the way most coaching is. You're basically asking questions, getting people to tell you what their goals are, and giving them support and encouragement, only to find out after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, maybe they're climbing the wrong ladder. The ladder they're climbing, the goal they're trying to achieve, is absolutely the wrong goal for them or for their business or for whatever it is they're trying to do. From a psychological standpoint, non-directive means that people are sitting in therapy for years and years and years, trying to figure things out, and the counselor's there, not allowed to direct them, and they have to kind of struggle and figure things out. The directive approach is a little more engaging. It is more advising and consulting than sitting back and waiting for the patient to figure everything out. Now, I know I've oversimplified it, but does that do it justice to your approach as a directive approach versus a non-directive?
That you did it wonderfully, because I call it the Freud approach. Nobody has 30 years to lay back and figure out, attachment issues, the root of the issue. We don't have that time anymore. Not that therapy should ever be an instant quick fix. However, at some point, a lot of therapists decided that the Freud approach was too long. And in modern society, we needed something a little bit quicker. So, it is first getting, the client's goals and getting it from their authentic self. So it's their authentic goals, and then figuring out how they can, and working with them and figuring out how they can achieve that, how they can get to that.
I love that. And,
so a little bit. Approach.
Yeah, it's there's still no such thing as a quick fix, but it does help if you can start out with someone who's giving you direction, so that you don't spend 30 years trying to figure out what the problem is, and by then you're so immersed into your problem that you have no energy left to work on the solution. Meanwhile,
Right.
you're in dysfunction for 30 years. Yes, exactly.
Right. No one has time for that.
Right. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I don't have time for that.
Right.
So so if you're listening to this and you're in the coaching or consulting space, as many Rebelpreneurs are, and you've probably been trained, hey, for liability purposes, you shouldn't give advice, you shouldn't give direction, you should just support and encourage. You got to ask yourself, are you doing your clients a disservice by not directing them, by not calling them out when they need to be called out, not assuming that what the client wants is necessarily what's best for them, but challenging that and getting them to think more deeply. Now, doing that in the mental health profession obviously takes a lot more skill and expertise, and this is what Mary Smith does so well. Talk to us a little bit about the difference between getting the education and the knowledge to do what you do versus building a business that delivers your products and services to people. What was that learning curve like?
Ooh, I think I'm still in the curve of learning, but it really helped having a therapist. So my psychotherapist owns her own practice, and her practice is called the Quarter Life Crisis Center. So at some point in our therapeutic work, I remember saying to her, all right, I'm going to start my own practice, and I think I need help. Can we do a little bit of both? And he said, yeah, that's great. We just have to bring it in, and you have to, I have to ask you, like, which one would you like to look at? So it was really helpful to see the space. I guess the difference is boundaries. So there are more boundaries in the professional space, in the business space. And quite frankly, I know that for me and for a few other therapists, boundaries are really hard. I mean, let's say, for example, the 24-hour cancellation policy or 48-hour cancellation policy, whatever policy you have. It's really hard when someone says, I just completely forgot. And you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I'm running a business. So yes, the cancellation policy stays, but then also the therapist in me is very empathetic towards what was going on and probably why. On the other hand, I can't say that they're mutually exclusive though, because they connect in that this could be a pattern for them. So holding down the boundaries for that could be the actual right therapeutic thing to confront, to say. So I don't know if that answers your question. I might have gone off on a tangent, but they go hand in hand, and then there's also a separation of them. And I see the difference in being more boundary, being more, I guess, qualitative and less inquisitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think one takeaway there is that you weren't trying to build a business by yourself, but you basically had a mentor, you had a model, you had a partner. So that's a big lesson. As entrepreneurs, we often try to do everything by ourselves. And as I've observed in the past couple of people that we've interviewed, business, regardless of your business, if it's mental health, coaching, consulting, publishing, whatever your business is, it's a team sport. It's not like chess or tennis where it's just you. Business is a team sport. Having support, having partners, having mentors, having coaches, having an alliance of people around you to support you, that is really going to help you get to where you want to be faster. And then, figuring out those boundaries. And I can think of some other ones, Mary, between boundaries of not bringing work home, not bringing home into work. without
Yes.
without being so what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really work-life balance, but there are boundaries that we have to respect. That's the word I'm looking for. Respect boundaries, respect limitations on yourself. Again, entrepreneurs, we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish. We have 50 projects going on at once. And so respect your boundaries and respect your limitations, your weaknesses, as well as your strengths, and compensate for those. Speaking of that, I wanted to ask, how has the global pandemic created opportunities or limitations for you, for your practice? Do you still see people face to face, or do you see them through Zoom, or how has your practice evolved with this global pandemic?
So I've gone totally Zoom or FaceTime, whichever one they prefer. One of my clients uses the Google video chat, and it's impacted my ability to see their whole body. So a part of my training is sensory motor psychotherapy. And in that, what we do is we take note of body movements. So from head to toe. And I believe that might be one of the only limitations that I have found to drastically impact. Now, again, I think I've gained the skill to see in their face, or at least their upper body, if something is happening, if something's moving, if there are, tears coming to the eyes. But it's interesting because, there's limitations, of course, with licensure and states and whatnot. But a lot of times clients will say, this is actually easier. And for me, it's a little bit easier. Technology, of course, has its, sometimes it's not reliable and sometimes calls drop and whatnot. But it was an adjustment, and I figured out a way to work with clients on the adjustment. You'll say things like, I'll say things like, can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Am I too close up? Do you want me to back away further? Because in the therapeutic room, it was about safety in that space. And it was about creating safety in the virtual space. So those are what I've noticed since the global pandemic. And it's interesting as they talk about transitioning back into the office. I think for therapists around the world that we're going to also see the same thing, the hybrid working model where half of our clients are on Zoom and half of them want to come into the office. And maybe they want to come into the office, twice a month, and the other 2 times they're virtual. So it was an adjustment. But it's interesting because I haven't noticed growth not happening or change not happening or emotions not happening. It's almost like everyone adjusted as well as we all could with the virtual. So it's working.
Interesting. And from what I have read, the efficacy of online intervention or support or counseling is equal to face-to-face. So it really comes down to the personal preference. Some people, they just get more out of it if it's face-to-face. And I understand that myself, just like I don't meet with clients face-to-face.
Right.
It's just easier for me not to have to go through all of that and just really focus in on what are we here to accomplish and get it accomplished, and not have to go through the whole social, things that we go through in order, at least me, I don't know about anybody else, but I go through a lot to get myself ready and prepared and get into a face-to-face with someone. We were talking about personalities off air, and my personality is such, it takes a lot of energy for me to go interact with someone. And I'd rather save that energy and give that energy away in a positive way to impact someone, as opposed to feeling drained after I've traveled an hour to get somewhere to meet them face to face. Maybe I'm weird like that. I don't know.
No, I think you're normal, because that's what I'm hearing from clients. And I'm feeling it myself. I think about the commute time, and then I think about, at my old office, I would have to go out to the lobby and get and retrieve them. And then, obviously I would get them water or tea or coffee if they wanted. And then I'd walk them back to the room, and then we'd sit down. And so I think, in a sense, it is a positive change that you cut that and you just hop on and you say, all right.
There's all of this getting ready to get ready, and then you get ready and you're finally there. And it's I don't know. It's more efficient. I mean, even doctors, who, granted, they're going to have to see you in some situations, but amazingly, what we discovered during the pandemic is that doctors can actually see many patients, not all patients, but doctors can see many patients with telehealth or with Zoom or with patient portals or whatever. It didn't require them to physically show up in the waiting room, sit there and wait for 35 minutes for their appointment for them to be shepherded back into the inner sanctum of the doctor's office and sit there for another 45 minutes. All of that was unnecessary, and it's wasteful. And so the bottom line is, as a result, here's where I'm going with all of this. We design our businesses to have the maximum impact, maximum influence, and you just can't maximize your influence and impact if you're meeting people face to face. How many of those can you do in a day versus how many people can you influence and impact if you redesign your business or your practice so that you're able to see several people, dozens of people in the course of a week, as opposed to just a handful of people. And not only that, but you're able to interact with people that you would otherwise never even be able to have a relationship with if it's all based on face-to-face. Pandemic helped us to kind of reevaluate how we do things, and it sounds like it's working well for you.
It is. And, I think it is another, it shows that technology in and of itself is not bad. It's how we use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed for me, I have 45 to 50-minute sessions, and I cut that right then. I don't have to walk them back or, have that like awkward moment. It's kind of like, okay, and we'll talk about this next week. Goodbye. I click it, and then I've got 10 extra minutes. Yeah. So it's actually really healing and helpful for me too in that way.
Yeah. Again, it's not for everybody, because there's still, just like with me, there's some clients that they'll say, well, for me to do business, I need to see you face to face, and I need to shake your hand, and I need to know that you're a real person. And my response used to be, okay, when do you want to meet? Now my response is, that's not the way I work. Everyone listening, repeat that out loud. That's not the way I work. Again, we're back to boundaries. What works for you? Design your business around what works for you, who you are, what makes sense. And, if it means, if someone can't work with me unless they meet me face to face, then it's not someone that I need to have as a client, because there's 1,000 other people out there who are willing and able and excited and happy to work with me or work with you or work with Mary, who don't have to have the face to face, don't care. They actually thrive with leveraging the technology. So the point is, the takeaway is, evaluate what you're doing and why. And are you doing it because this is the way you've always done it? Or are there more effective ways that you can increase your impact, your influence, and your income by reaching more people in ways that leverage technology? Very exciting that you're able to do that. And I think that's a game changer for you, Mary. What are you working on right now that's got you really excited? So
I am working on getting my brand, The Crazy Therapist, I'm working on getting it up and running.
Now, that's not politically correct. The crazy therapist. That's not politically correct.
It's not. It's not. And I love that it's not. I am reusing, I'm reinventing the word crazy. And I remember, I picked out this, when you have to, hold Instagram names. I picked out this name of almost 4 years ago, and I held on to it and didn't do anything for 2 years because of insecurities and putting myself out there and all a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was worried about using the word crazy. Well, what will people think? Mm-hmm. And now being able to tap into, a more secure self and say, no, I'm reinventing the word crazy because we're all a little crazy. We all have a little bit of crazy in us. And it's only until we can tap into that and accept that and then use that in our benefit and then thus other people's benefit, that's when the world becomes a better place. So I'm excited to get that brand up and running because I want to reach people outside of the couch. I want to reach people outside of the office, the virtual office. I want to connect to a larger audience because what I've seen in COVID is a need, a bigger need for mental health, to access mental health. And I'm noticing that there's going to be a need after, I don't even know if I can say after this is all said and done. I don't think there will be an ending point because there's no normal that we're returning to. It's a new normal. Mm-hmm. There's going to be something that we need because we're going to need to heal from this as a collective due to the collective trauma that's occurred. And I'm working on, as I'm putting myself out there in this space and getting this brand up and running and having my, 300 followers. Thank you for all of you. I'm noticing that we're going to need something. And I want to work on creating something that people can take away with them and people can take with them as a tool, not to replace therapy, but to have as a extra tool, something that is radically different from what we have available now, and something that can help propel people forward, something that is real and valuable and can be used to help increase your personal and mental well-being. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm gathering data for it.
That really sounds like a powerful vision supported by a very rebelpreneur-like attitude and mindset around the crazy therapist. Is that's I heard you correctly, right?
That's it. Yeah.
I love it.
Rebel of itself.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about with the whole rebelpreneur mindset. Being willing to break the rules and build the business you need so you can live the life you want and have that life and that business make an impact. And to do that, man, you got to get outside of your box. You got to get outside of the cultural hypnosis that all of us are stumbling around in, the fog of the ordinary, and go beyond the status quo. And it does, I think, begin with the branding. How you package, position, and present your services makes a tremendous impact on how you are perceived. And I think you're on the right track. I really love that idea because it is unconventional and unexpected and a little bit controversial. And people who have been in your field for 70 years, and they're old and they've got hair coming out of their ears, they're going to be offended by that. They're going to say, you can't say that. You can't. But it's like in the old days with meteorologists. You used to call them weathermen. You didn't have weather women. But if you use the word tornado in a forecast or in a weather report, you would be fired because they were afraid that if you said tornado, people would panic. So look how far we've come now, to every little thing we've got to watch and a warning for. But the point is we've got to be willing to go beyond, break the rules, get outside of the norm, challenge the conventional wisdom. And I think you're doing that beautifully with the crazy therapist. I can't wait to see how that develops and how that unfolds. I will be following that. If you want to follow that and connect with Mary, it's marysmithcounseling.com. You can go check that out, find out who she helps and how you can work with her. And I think, Mary, that you really have a gift. I can perceive that just in our conversation and in the things that you are up to. And I look forward to seeing your success.
Thank you, Ralph. I really appreciate that. That means a lot.
What final thoughts or words of wisdom would be appropriate to leave with our listeners right now?
So I have a quote from a book I just finished reading. The book was by Dr. Irvin Yalom. It was called Creatures of a Day. It's called Creatures of a Day. And here's the quote. All of us are creatures of a day, the rememberer and the remembered alike. All is ephemeral, both memory and the object of memory. The time is at hand when you will have forgotten everything, and the time is at hand when all will have forgotten you. Always reflect that soon you will be no one and nowhere. By Marcus Aurelius, The Meditations. Isn't that a powerful quote?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Very
so
interesting.
Thank you again.
Words to ponder, words to think about. And this is what Mary Smith does. She gets you to think about who you are, helping you to become your craziest, most authentic self always. She is a licensed professional counselor and a cognitive healer. She helps people, in other words, she helps you get your thinking straight, your stinking thinking. She helps people to get there using humor, actionable insights, and personal story sharing to connect with patients and help heal their personal suffering so their true selves can emerge. Find out more at marysmithcounseling.com. We'll have that link on the Rebelpreneur website as well. Mary, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you being on Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thank you again for having me, Ralph.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.